I thank the gentlewoman, and the Chair recognizes himself for his questions. Mr. Secretary, welcome. I want to start with an issue that I'm not sure members have asked you about, but I'm willing to bet that most members of this committee have seen the clips of the mandated sensitivity training that has been taking place at the Department. Could you please explain to the committee the necessity of these trainings where workers are required to recite such things as, quote, the pilgrims were illegal aliens, end quote? Are these trainings mandatory for employees?
Congressman, they're not mandatory. They're not in, that process is not in play today. The effort was part of a larger loss prevention effort to try to reduce the number of program complaints and EEO complaints that we had in the Department when I came in as Secretary. We're now at record lows in both the program complaints.
The objective was good, but the messenger was not too desirable, in my opinion. Can you tell us how much money the USDA spent on the training, particularly the ones hosted by Samuel Betances? I've heard as much as $400,000 was paid to him.
I can't tell you the specific amount. I'd be happy to provide that to you, Congressman. I would only point out, obviously, there were provocative statements designed to get people to think in the context of how it feels in a diverse circumstance. This is a company that has been used by Fortune 500 companies and other agencies of the Federal Government. So it's not as if we plucked him out of someplace where he, hadn't been involved before.
Were you as shocked as many of us were to see some of the statements that he made in those sessions on video?
Well, I understand that they're provocative, and I'm sure hindsight's always 20/20. But the point of this, I think, should not be lost, and that is that we were faced with multiple billions of dollars of claims and multiple millions.
But you could get a whole new round of claims based upon the types of statements and actions that he took in those sensitivity training programs.
I'm not sure about that, Congressman.
Subjecting people to that kind of nonsense?
It wasn't. I think there's it wasn't mandated, but it is important for us to reduce the number of these complaints and a number of these lawsuits, and we've done that, and that saves taxpayer money.
Well, I would hope, given the sequester, when the USDA is considering furloughs of meat inspectors, that the impact on public health of doing something like that, compared to these trainings, that the trainings would get a healthy cut in this process, especially if you say that you're not experiencing the difficulties that you were before.
Mr. Chairman, we are reducing conferences, as I said earlier.
Let me ask you about farmers who've recently gotten surveys asking about injuries of youth on their farms. Given the DOL rule last year, this has raised concerns among producers about why this information is being collected. And could you provide us with background on why producers receive these surveys, many of which have complained bitterly about the intrusiveness of the questions, the length of the survey, and want to know whether or not they're voluntary?
Is this part of the Ag Census, sir?
Yes, it
okay.
is.
Well, the Ag Census obviously is something that is a significant effort on the part of USDA to assemble an amount of data that will allow us to develop better policy. 1.67 million farmers have already responded to the census, so that represents a significant reaction to the census and a positive aspect of it. The census, in terms of the Department of Labor issue, what we are doing now is we're developing with the universities a curriculum for farm safety, because we believe that education is better than what was being proposed by the Department of Labor.
So you're saying the surveys are not voluntary then if they're part of the census, is that correct?
Well, I think people have the ability to return it if they want, or not return it if they don't want.
So but they may face consequences if they don't return it if they don't want.
Well, I don't. I mean, the consequence is that we don't get the rich database that we need to be able to make policy decisions that are.
So you're saying that if a farmer doesn't like the questions and don't want to return it, they don't have to. You've got enough data from the ones who've complied.
What I'm saying is that they have the option, Congressman and Mr. Chairman, and they can exercise that option. We would hope that they would provide responses, because the more farmers who respond, the better the information we have, the better the policies hopefully can be developed, because we have good data.
And to the point about the youth injuries, is the USDA working with DOL to change those requirements on the issue of youth participation in agriculture?
As I said, we're working together to put together, along with the Farm Bureau and the National Farmers Union and universities and land-grant universities, a curriculum similar to what a college would have, where there would be basic safety courses that could be available. And we're going to then try to work with the insurance industry to see if they might be able to provide incentives for folks, operations that would exercise.
With these safety, if you've got a small farm and your neighbor's child is working on your farm, are you going to have them or you participate in a safety program before you can hire them?
No. It's just we're trying to provide education about farm safety because we know that farm families are concerned about that. We're trying to provide information, and then what we hope to have is more sophisticated and more detailed safety courses on more complex machinery. The whole goal here is to provide education to folks, not to provide mandates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.